Welcome to the pre-conference workshop, which is on science of the plant and machinery valuation. So this is a part of our main conference, uh, 9th International Conference on Real Estate Management and Valuation. So today we are having our academic session. So under this academic session, we will have a plant and machinery valuation pre-conference workshop as an evening session. So first of all, I would like to warmly welcome all the participants who joined physically here at the University of Sri Javadanapura, and also the participants joined online. More than 60 participants has been joined. So warmly welcome to you to the pre-conference workshop. So it is my privilege as the head of the department to welcome our keynote speaker, today's speaker, Professor Houdin Halim. So let me briefly give a profile of our speaker. Professor Houdin is an industry professor of the Department of Real Estate, Faculty of Built Environment, University Malaya, and he is a former Director General, Valuation and Property Services Department under the Ministry of Finance, Malaysia. And also, he has a wide experience as a practitioner, as he was the past president of Board of Valuers, Appraisal, State Agents and Property Managers of Malaysia. So I believe that with his experience, he might give you an best idea about how to do this plant and machinery valuation, especially as a practitioner and now as an industry professor. We believe that this will be a wonderful session. And without much explanation about his profile, I would like to invite Professor Houdin Halim to address you all. Over to you, Prof. Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much with that introduction, Professor Dr. Prataps, the head of departments, senior professors, doctors, participants, and everyone who are participating in these pre-conference workshops, and perhaps those who are online together in these sessions. I will try to my best to share with everyone about my experience and whatever I have come across in doing valuations of plant, machineries, and equipments. But before I proceed, let me find out around these rooms. How many of you from the private sector? 1, 2, 3. Wow, that's a big issue and challenge to me, because they are the one who also involved in doing valuations, and probably we sometimes face the same situations on how to overcome the valuations of plant, machine, and equipments. And whether we are actually doing the jobs, or we are in the academics, or we are students, really we have to understand the basic fundamental principles of what the plant, machinery, and equipment is about. Because when I was with the valuation departments under the Ministry of Finance in Malaysia for 37 years before my mandatory retirements at 60 years, I faced quite numbers of challenges and issues in getting the real facts and documents whenever I'm given the case of anything to do with plant, machinery, and equipments. Because in Malaysia, we are just lucky that among the biggest valuation that we have done so far during my tenure with the Evaluation Property Services Department is to undertake valuation for the whole airports in Malaysia. Just imagine, we have the international airports, we have the domestic airports, and also the smaller airports that is, we call it the stall ports, STOL, the short takeoff landing airport. And the worth of valuation in Malaysia ringgit is more than 1 billion. Just we have KLIA 1, Terminal 1, Terminal 2, and so forth, and all over Malaysia. And then to start off with today sharing sessions on the plant machinery equipments, perhaps if I were to talk and share this topic, maybe it will take me around 1.5 days or 2 days, because my slides, I think it was prepared to such a that duration. But I will try to compress within these 4 hours until 5:30 if you have time, to really highlight what are the important things for a plant valuer to understand. Because I have the opportunity to have my attachment program in New Zealand, where I was attached to one of the firms over there to undertake various plant machinery equipments from the smaller kiwi dairies factories, bakery factories, to the biggest kiwi dairy factories they have in New Zealand. That within the 3 months intensive course, I managed to value about more than 50 numbers of factory. Just imagine how they do the work and how we get all those informations. Sometimes, though it's very challenging, but we manage to get such information from the manufacturer, from the supplier, from the people who have those informations. So let me start off with these topics about valuations of plant machinery equipments. First of all, we have to know why actually we need to value plant machinery equipments. Of course, one will say that we want to know the worth of our assets. Even any companies that come to see us will probably need to have an idea what will be the worth of their assets. So that is one of the important things why we need plant valuer to evaluate or undertakes valuation for such a plant machinery and equipments. And number two is that sometimes they want to know the list of inventory. You know what happens from my experience? We have some big companies or big entrepreneurs, firms. They have the inventory, but the inventory is not in a proper list. So meaning to say that a valuer will come in to arrange and put all the list of inventory in a proper inventory list. That means to say we can itemize them according to their section, according to the place where they are located, and so forth. So that is also an important, because every year they will have a checklist to inspect whether their inventory list is all in within the compound of the premise. And then we also have to know that the sustainability of the assets in terms of how they were able to keep their asset, the machine, the equipments, and all that in a good condition at all point of times, in order for the plants to be able to do their processing, to manufacture things and all what they need to do. And the final thing is that they need to have a registered asset for the future plannings, because along the line, maybe probably sometime they need to replace the asset. The asset might be outdated, or the asset probably might no longer exist, the model. So they need to replace with a new model, or maybe probably they have a latest, computerized system that can, process a much quicker and a much, economics in terms of the productions. So I just like to bring everyone, whether it's online or everyone who's present in this hall, as to the definitions of the plant machinery. We have a few gurus or people who has, very established doing valuation likes this Edward J. Watts. Under his definition in the books of An Introduction to Plant Machinery and Equipment's Valuation Implication for Building Values, what he says is that machinery and equipment means it's all fixed assets other than land and buildings. In other words, we will say that anything other than real estate is plant machinery equipment, whether it's a furniture, whether it's a fitting, whether it's a machine, whether anything other than real estate, like building and land, we consider them as plant machinery and equipment. Just imagine how big the jobs of a plant valuer. If you were to do a valuation for plant machinery, you'll be able to smile all along. Every month you're getting a good returns from what you're doing. Okay? Even like Kirit Bupati, I happened to realize that when I was with the at the small mini library down below the ground floor at the real estate uh, uh, building just now, there's a books by Kirit Bupati. So Kirit Bupati says that any plant machinery are terms used as to refer to any installations and support facility. It means to say for any manufacturing industry that is they design to perform any specific predetermined functions, meaning to say this function either they are in single or they are in combinations with other items that enhance the productivity of any products that incorporate all the methods, that whether it's raw materials or anything that comes into the factory until to the end products, until the finished products. So it means to say that it is a process whereby from the raw material until the end products. So all this assemblance of the machines are used to produce the end products. And then another famous author on valuations of plant and machinery handbooks, the Chris Derry, who's very active with the RICS UK. In his book, he said that can be thought as the fixed assets of a company other than land and buildings. Same thing as what Edward J. was saying, like motor vehicles, mobile ships, mobile plants, ships, locomotive, aeroplanes, similar assets which are patently not physically fixed will normally be considered as plant machinery and equipment. So that's how they define. Even there are other definition other than this guru in plant machinery, like in the Supreme Court of New South Wales, Australia. You see that it is relevant to consider not only its design, its size, methods of constructions, and mode of attachment at the soil, but also the most importantly, what is used and the functions of that particular equipment. So when we talk about valuation of plant and machinery, we just name it. If it is other than land and building, other than real estate, it can be anything that we think we might see, then we can define it. No, everyone can define it. As to the plant machinery equipment evaluations that we're going to touch in this first session is about the scope of work, the standards, that is also regards to the regulatory body, and the manual, the recognitions, because if you are to do any evaluation in any country, a valuer must be recognized, must be certified, must be accredited by a certain body so that you are considered as a professional that is legally, can possess the work. And then we'll see about the some of the glossary terminologies. You might familiarize all this glossary and terminology once you are really, involved in the evaluations of plant machinery equipments. And then we go about with evaluation, inspection, training courses, and then we end up this thing. So like the standards that we have recently, IVSC, early this year, they have come up with a new revised updates on the variations of plant machinery equipments. And they have incorporated infrastructure as an addition to the previous standard they have. Before they call it plant machinery equipment. Now they call it plant equipment and infrastructure. So this is how important we see the job of a plant valuer. And then in other places, we have that USPAP and then the RICS and all that. So all those other standards that they have within the country. Even the takeover, they have the European Plant Machinery Equipment Valuation Standards. And in fact, New Zealand and Australia, they have merged together to come out the valuations and property standards for New Zealand and Australia. I have the opportunity to go through with the international, Institutes of Plant Machinery Equipment in New Zealand when they first do the revisions in the early 90s, whereabout we go through on the standards and what are the component that need to be incorporated whenever we do valuation for certain purpose, for certain types of requests by the client and all that. And then in our country, Malaysia, just to share with everyone, we recently has reviewed in early this year, January, on the Malaysian Valuation Standards 2025. And we have improvised the standards on the plant machinery, and we have incorporated the infrastructure as well in the to be consistent with what the international standard is doing. So like we have the Malaysian Valuation Standard 15 that solely, talks about the valuation for the plant machinery equipments, where about the ISV, they have a standards 300s, okay? And then there are some detailed comparisons. When we talk about all these standards throughout the world, globally, mainly they talks about the structure, the document, the application, the definitions on what is the plant machinery, the approaches, the methods, the assumption that also include the limiting conditions, and also important, the code of conduct and the ethics, reporting, departure, and appraisal review. So all in all, there's a study by some of our fellow friends on this about this standard. So from all this category that I mentioned just now, all the above study that have been conducted by the Appraisal Foundation in the US, they commented that about 76 sub-issues which concluded that the valuation standard around the world have more similarities than the dissimilarities. In other words, we are talking about the same land. Even later on, I'll share about what's happened in Brazil, what happened in China, and all that. So that means to say, even though each and every country have their own standard, but in terms of understanding of the particular topics of what is mentioned earlier, they are more or less similar. So this is things that we have to really focus on and look every now and then on what the standard should be. And then just to share about the standards in Brazil, for instance, which I have, you know, uh, have the opportunity to look at their standards. The only peculiar thing about what they do in Brazil is that they are not property valuers. They are engineers who do valuation for the plant machinery equipments. But these engineers are accredited by their their institutions. So in Brazil, the appraisal standards for their place is they have their technical reports, and what the content of the technical reports spell out that there must be a manufacturing year, there must be a serial number, there must be a manufacturer year of reconstruction and all that. So these indications of the explanations of the subject matter, whenever we do valuation, even we look at the other standard, these are the most important element that you need to have in the valuation reports. Like you need to know when it is manufactured, what is the serial number, why it's important to have the serial number, and where is manufacturer, what are the the names of the manufacturer and so forth, the year of its manufacture, and the condition and so forth. So and it goes on, like the useful life of the equipments, the fair market value, reproduction cost new whenever it needs to be, and the net weight. This is also something a little bit odd when we talk about why it is really necessary to know the net weight for any particular machines. No, because any machine that come to the end of the economic life, they can become scraps. So the only things that they have worth is to sell whatever the scrap worth. And then sometimes you need to weigh the scrap machine in terms of you be able to convert it to dollar and cent. Okay. And then in China, our friend from China have shared this during one of the conference in Tokyo, Japan, many years ago. They talk about 8 chapters on the plant machinery equipment evaluation, like the general certificate, general appraisal agencies, industrial associations, supervision, and all that. So it comes close to the same as what other standards we have. So, and then the other methods that is important for a plant valuer is really to understand if we have the opportunity or if we have the manual on how to go about with taking the specific notes or anything when we do inspection and all that, because once we establish the conventions or anything that we need to take in terms of what are the specification that is mandatory for you to have to describe a machine, then that can become a convention as to all the plant valuer will agree upon. Then we will not have any dispute further whenever we have the descriptions of that particular asset. And then the description, I will go into detail about the description later on in the later lectures on the macro and the micros. So, of course, the glossary and terminology, as a plant valuer, sometimes there are certain, acronyms, short forms, and all that. Whenever we approach the maybe any of the manager in charge of that particular sections in the engineering sections, we have to understand some of their, specific short form they use. Like for instance, if you are valuing airports later on, we'll see that people will talk like, how you describe your BHS. It means to say that how you describe that baggage handling systems. So it means to say, as a valuer, we understand their language, the engineer language, the people who manage that particular mill or the factory, so that whenever we want to take informations, we are able to communicate with them in accordance to what the normal language that they used to talks in a day-to-day, overseas their factory. Like even perhaps things like MCC, they say, oh, this MCC, but to us, the MCC means is something to do with the acronyms of main control center. So because the more you go, the more factory, the more complex the factory, there are many more this short form and acronym you will overcome and get through it, like the PLC, AC, DC, single and three-phase electricity. No, just like we are valuer, but at the same time we understand what the engineers doing. Even sometimes what other people's is doing uh, uh, in the day to day. Like the PLC here, it means that it's a programmable logical control. So sometimes you need to have a higher step of control system, whereby sometimes if the equipments that you inspect having the PLC might be the worth of that particular equipment is more expensive than the normal equipment that you see from day to day. And possibly, if we were to inspect all this equipment, sometimes it's just like something within the box, in the cabinets, which how are we going to differentiate? What are the components that lies within the cabinets? So what are the instruments they have there? So there is something extra that we need to understand as a valuer. We need to understand what are the features and the instruments that is assembly within that cabinets. Okay, like this control panel and all that. So I'll go quickly. These are like if you're doing the evaluation for the airport, you have the BHS, the BSS, RTA, TTS, BLP. Then you can say, what is RTS? RTS means the runway, taxiway, and aprons. The runway is the where the aircraft take off. The taxiway where it guides to the terminal, and then the apron is where the aircraft dock, the docking area for the aircraft. So all this acronym is something that benefit the valuer. If you understand it, then it's easier for you to get more information, like TTS, the transit systems. We have the aero. Sometimes in other places they call it differently. They call it aero train. So that is something that like even PLB, passengers loading bridges. Sometimes they call it aero bridges. Okay, and so forth. So the list of important information needed. Probably I will not explain in detail about it. Maybe after this we have the handout and all that. But what I would like to highlight that for all the information you need to have in hand before you start any evaluation, these are the things that is important for a plan builder to have it. From the asset register, from the maintenance cost, but even perhaps sometimes you're maybe unable to get all this information, but this information is important, like equipment manual. Sometimes you have to go to their library to study the manual, how they operate. Then only you'll be able to describe the equipment in the reports. Because as a plant valuer, some of the equipment that we are going to inspect in maybe in other cases given to us might probably totally different from what we have come across previously. because I've come across how to undertake valuation for hospital. You just imagine the numbers of equipments, numbers of apparatus they have, the numbers of, whatever we call it in the operation theaters and all that, the cardiacs, you just name it. The huge number of terminologies and types of equipment you have, unless otherwise you'll be able to understand their manual. And even if you are doing valuation for the apparatus that maintains the aircraft, just imagine all those simple tools, even though it's small tools like that, it's a special tool. It might worth a few million of dollars and all that. So that is the importance of understanding all these things. And then, of course, you have all the photograph, you have all the contacts, tender documents and all that. We need to have the contact number because later on we got to contact the supplier, the manufacturer. Because when I did the valuation for the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, I have to email the supplier from UK. I have to email the supplier from Germany for the supply of the aerotrain, the Bombardier aerotrain. How much would it worth? Even perhaps the supplier of the aero bridges, one from the US, one from Indonesia, and all that. So we need to have all those information beforehand in order for us to advise our clients. So that is the importance of having all this information. You are lucky, you will be able to get, but sometimes you will not be able to get the information because maybe it was misplaced and whatever reason given to you. And on top of that, we have all the attachment descriptions. We have the plate number, the name plates and all that. Production capacity. This is also important. Let's say you are doing valuation for the oil mill, palm oil mill. You have to know generally what is the capacity of that palm oil mill in a day. How do they operate? They operate 8 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours. How many line of mill they have and all that. So that is part. So if you read the books of Kirit Butpati, it explains to you all the details of about this related things that I've explained here about these productions capacities. And then the operation time, we understand that the engineering drawings. If you have the AutoCAD, then it's easier. Just imagine how you're going to, know the length of the cabling for the runway, the airport, the runway of the airports. If you don't have the drawing, because the length could be a few thousands kilometers, maybe, probably, I don't know. And then what sort of cabling they have? The primary cabling, the secondary cabling, the exchange and whatnot. Just imagine, just for the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, the baggage handling system is 41 kilometers. It's like a roller coaster, It go haywire from the main ticketing counter right below all the primary sorter, secondary sorter. They sort all the baggage, the X-ray machines, the sniffing machines, and everything down below there. Even perhaps down below they have even the baggage storage area. They store the baggage. If you check in early, your baggage will straight away go down below the basement until the departure of the aircraft. Then only it goes back to the refuel chamber and onwards to the aircraft. Okay. So whenever we do valuation, we have to do opening meetings. That is very obvious because we want to understand the operational of that particular, plans, how they go about, what are the, capacity. They will brief us everything, and then we have question and answers that will follow through. And then like this, then sometime after the opening, we have the cursory visit just to understand roughly. Maybe probably sometime like we work in the private sector, we want to fix roughly what the fee would be. So we have to estimate roughly that worth about that much. So the fee is so much. So then only if they're satisfied, then we proceed with the jobs. So that is not very normal in the private sector. And then like this one of the very specialized, a place where they do the test for the satellites, satellite that goes up to the cloud and all that. So we have clients from India, from Indonesia, and rest of the world that do their testing over in Malaysia. So on the technical components, so these are the things: the inspection, the valuation report, the specification writing, the methods of evaluations, depreciation. Well, actually, when we talk about methods of valuation, there is no actually real difference between the land and building valuation that we're doing, except there are certain methods that really we have to take into consideration in terms of the other things that will go in detail later on, and then the data, the sales comparables, and all that. So like normally when we do inspection, we have the before cursory inspection, during, after, post, and then that is about the inspections. Okay, on the data. So this I will go very quickly on the data. It's mainly about why we need to have all this data, and then why we need to develop the data. If you have the opportunity in a company or anywhere you work, you need to have this data, because it's easier whenever you have the same case as what you have done previously. You just can retrieve whatever reports of valuation that you have done before, and then whether it can be used in your current case, and then the information you collect, and then maybe probably from there you update, and then of course that will become a part of your database. This one of the sample of the database that you can have if you're doing a valuation for plant machinery equipment. Like you can arrange that in such a way that by arranging the database with alphabetically orders and all that, you'll be able to retrieve the data later on for the later use. Okay, like this, whenever you want to retrieve, and then you can retrieve, even perhaps you can convert some of the currency if it is from not from the original countries and all that to your country currencies. So okay, and then sometimes we have from the magazine, sometimes we have from the search from the websites, and so forth. Okay. Okay, plant machinery equipment valuation, something like Mona Lisa and Robert Einstein. So I don't have to elaborate further, because the art as well look at the machine, the equipment, really appreciate, the price. Even when it almost retired, some it really worth. Simply because I experienced one when the governments wanted to privatize the printing of the government's sections. The printer that they have, even it is already having their economic life expired, but they still can print their papers and all that. So it means to say that they still got worth of monetary in the sense of whenever they transact, they will able to get return from it. Even sometimes it is not because that particular factory have an equipment with both similar factories side by side, but because of the name, one factory will fetch higher or worth more than the other factory. Just like if you are saying that a factory that supply KFC and a factory next to it with the same similar, production plant supply a simple, not a KFC, but other name. So the one with the brand KFC will worth higher than that. Isn't it so? Is it not true? Is it? Yes or no? No. Our gentleman was very serious about me. Okay, doesn't matter. So when we do valuations for the plant machinery, so these are the things that also we need to have with us, the team, the sufficient times for us to do the jobs, the space whenever you do the job. Sometimes you need to have a place where about you're able to perform your meetings and what you have to do once you are at the site. And then, of course, you need a sufficient funds, and you need to gather adequate data. And for the site inspections, we need to have the somebody who will guide us, will accompany us to the place so that they will able to explain to us, will able to provide more information whenever we have anything to ask, and then communication and transportations. Okay. And in addition to what we have discussed earlier, things like warranties is also important. For machines, you need to have warranties, even after sales service, document manuals, precedent engineer, because sometimes a manufacturer supplier, they not only supply the equipment, but they supply the technician as well to look after the specialized equipments, the engineer, and all that. So this is some of the things that we encountered during our past experience. And special training workshops, sometimes all these special training and workshop are incorporated in the worth of that particular plant machinery and equipments. Because together with the manual, they need to conduct a training for you to understand how to go about and how to be able to manage the equipments and so forth. Just to share with everyone about how the groups of plant valuers in this world, they get together every now and then to update the information of plant machinery, which I've involved from the very early 80s. Like we have training conferences like the International Conference Valuation on Plant Machinery Equipment started in Gujarat, India, the first one. And then he went to Kuala Lumpur for the second, and third in Sydney. This is the second time when I was very young in Kuala Lumpur. And then the Kirit Burpati is there sitting in front there. There is. Whenever you see Kirit Burpati, you will see the books in the library. Okay. And the other conferences been conducted in China, in the Frankfurt, and all over the way in Moscow. So these are the platform where we share with other, people who really have done their jobs in terms of whether it's big or small. So from there, we updates about the latest, whatever information with regard to valuing plant machinery and equipment. I managed to present a paper in Auckland in the year 2019 on the training, and even perhaps as to assist plant valuer, young plant valuer, we have a dedicated gallery. We have put up a gallery to teach the students. We have a model of some of the machines, the factory and all that. From that model, it's easier for us to make the students or any of the people who are wanted to understand as a hands-on informations about what it's all about. Because whenever you talk about how to read the plate of the engine, then you can show them what are the things that is actually you need to find within that machine. And then in the year 2020, after the COVID, it was held in Saudi Arabia. So I also involved in the TACking collaboration program with the Saudi Arabia participants. We conduct programs on how to go about with valuation of plant machinery equipments. So this one of the high-level meeting that we have conducted in the 2020 in doing the valuations of plant machinery equipments. And then we also have in our training institute in Kuala Lumpur, the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, where we have participants from the third world countries to be there to learn on how to do valuation of plant machinery equipments. That's the end of the first part today. Before I start with the second, is any questions on the floor or online? Shall we continue? Can somebody help me to get to the second slide, please? So how do you find the sharing? Is it okay? Is it too slow or too fast? Or do we have any break in between, or this full swing non-stop of marathons? Can anyone share what are the biggest valuation you have come across? The second one.
This one, right?
Huh?
This one, right?
No, the second one. Scoop. Is it scoop of? This is the second one.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
the
okay.
second
All right.
one.
Anyone has done refinery? Oil refinery? No. Chicken motor? Sometimes it's not only a factory, you know. You might be asked to undertake valuation of the crane, special sort of excavator, or a quarry sort of transporters, and so forth. Okay, we'll continue quickly on this one. So, of course, when we talk about plant machinery, number one is any machines that come across that is also category as plant machine, whether it's a small drilling machines, hammer, special tools, and whatever, it is part of plant machinery equipments. What happened, the interesting part of this, when you do valuation for machine, though it's a small part, when come to liquidations, auctions, that counts because it's how you handle the auctions of that particular machine. Sometimes through my experience, for all these smaller equipments, we group them together. So it's easier for the bidder to bid whatever amount they want to bid. Okay, agriculture, manufacturing, of course, there are lots under the sun. Everything other than land and building is plant machinery. Communication equipments, another interesting part. No, sometimes in a country whereby they have upgrade the system. You know, those days it was from 2G, 3G, 4G, 5Gs, and all that. I once undertook valuation for the 2G system of communications in Kuala Lumpur because government decided to upgrade into 3G system of communication. So we have to climb up the rooftop of most of the buildings in Kuala Lumpur. Sometimes also very risky, you climb up without any insurance. Also just be careful, you might fall down. You have to wear certain attires, certain safety gears and all that. And it's a separate lecture altogether on the safety part. But as a plant valuer, it's not only that you go for inspection, but also to cover your safety. While doing all this, sometimes it's not only dangerous, it's hazardous. Sometimes it may harm you. That's why you have to wear proper attire on that. And some of the places they will ask you to put on a special attires, which is provided by that particular factory. Okay, computer servers, network, and all that. So when it comes to valuation, this is a lot. And then that's why you need some literature review. You need some understanding about how does the server work, the server network, the capacity, understand the terminologies of this network and the servers in the computerized system and all that. So then we're able to, once we are able to understand, not only able to write in our report, but the most important thing is to get evidence later on from the supplier. Because anything that you fax out, you email to the supplier is actually a description of the item that you have inspected. For example, when I did the valuation for the aircraft crash recovery equipment systems of the airports. I've got a long list of the aircraft crash recovery and send it to UK. And then they respond to me, what would be the air compressor life of that particular items that you need? What are the capacity? So I reply them back. So once they got all the descriptions, then they quote a figure. So for that particular list that you have sent me, these are the figures of valuation that they indicate to me. So that sort of communication is very important because that become your evidence if you are being asked by the auditors later on. The report is not just for the client, but they will engage the auditor that come after us. They will query right and left as to how we come about with the valuation. And I've been query left and right about all these things before. Some of the auditors, they came from Hong Kong, they came from Singapore. They start to questions why this airport is different from that airport valuation. It seems like you're having the same descriptions altogether. So we have to explain why the difference and all that. Okay. And then of course, we have the contractor machineries, just the engineerings, and then even like food and beverages processing plants. Sometimes all these are small requests from the clients, but these are very important things that once we understand all this equipment, that we have all the data and information, then it's easier for us to respond and prepare the reports. Even like laboratories. So in some of the industry, they have a special lab. They do all the testing. They do all this, sampling and all that. So this laboratory, there are special equipment that, like even perhaps like water treatment plant. If you're doing water treatment plant, there are lab which do the testing for the water pH, and then all kind of tests they conduct in order to ensure the safety of the water and to ensure that the water, when they are delivered to the clients, they are edible water. And then infrastructure, of course, that's what we have included in the standards. And then so all these are very important. Mining, quarries, and all that. So these are even, it looks simple like that, but you have to understand the different stages of the quarry mining and all that. What are the primary stage of the quarry of all this stone and all that, the primary stage, the refinery and all that. So it's very tedious job, but it's a wonderful things to do because the return also must be wonderful, isn't it? The plastic industry, rubber industry, uh, textiles, transportation equipments, and all that. Because sometimes, uh, even like what I've experienced before, even governments sometimes they come to a department of evaluation to ask what would be the worth of some of their assets they have. So because government also they have quite numbers of fleet, transportation and all that. So they need us to evaluate and determine the worth of their fleet, which is sometimes is dedicated for special uh, whatever they are delegates that comes from other countries. Okay, woodworkings and then printings. So highway, that's part of the infrastructure, tunnels, viaducts, flyover ramps, underpass, etc. So I mean, all these are the bridges, the tunnel subway, drawbridge. We have one in the in Terengganu, the drawbridge. So how actually we determine this worth of the bridge if you ask to conduct? So and how are we going to describe this bridge and so forth? Okay, the reservoir, when you do water treatment plant, sometime when the water comes from the reservoir right to the main intakes and to the water treatment plant, so all this needs to be established. The mass rapid transits, the LRT, the monorail, the computer, the ERL, ECRL, we have quite numbers of all these transportation system, the infrastructure, the power plant. This is another a big job if we were to do valuation of power plant, whether it's a hydro power plant, whether it's using petrol, a power plant using nucleus and all that. So, okay. Even perhaps the infrastructure of supply of electricity and gases. You have all the grid, and then how are you going to understand and have all the informations with regards to the infrastructure that you asked to value. Even sometimes you have the submarine cable between one place to another, because all these are below the oceans, under the seas. So it's only you have the information from their record, then only you'll be able to get the informations. And then like all these asset valuation programs. So when we talk about valuations for the factory, the machinery, what is important is that we have to understand all these classifications, classifications of the factory. Number one is about the production machinery, where normally for whatever constructions of the equipment in the process plant, even the structure that is being built to shelter the equipment, they are also considered as part of the plant machinery equipments. That's why under our introduction, in the preambles of the report, we have to explain on the terms of reference that we do the valuations. Because sometimes it's a little bit confused. When you have a substation, but a substation, substations of electricity equipments. Okay, there is a structures of it. There's a building on it. So whatever buildings that is built upon it, that is also considered as a plant machinery equipment. And sometimes there are equipment which needs to have a special air conditioning systems, a special ventilation system. So that air conditioning system and special ventilation system is considered as part of the plant and machinery equipment. And it differs from the air conditioning systems for the use of the people in that particular building. Like here, we have the air conditioning system here. It's not considered as plant and machinery. But if it is for the installations to preserve the server and all that, a special kind of a place, then we have to consider that as part of the plant machinery equipment. That's why when you have team to do or to conduct the evaluations, you have to understand and always have meeting with this team so that you don't have a duplications of matters taken into account, so that you understand the boundary and all that. Like the oil refinery, from the upstreams right to the downstream, all this, it depends on the informations that we get on site. This palm oil mill, so all these some of the samples of factory that I have done valuation before. So you just look at the one in the middle. So that is one of the sterilizer. They call it for the palm oil mill, but this sterilizer is considered as vertical sterilizer. You have horizontal sterilizer, you have a tilt sterilizer, you have spear sterilizer. That's why when come to the classification, the types of model for all this plant machinery, they come in various form, various name, and various types. Even perhaps if you are to do version for that container, the tank. So all this tank, they come in different sizes. They come in different fabrications. Sometimes it's stainless steel. Sometimes they are insulated. And then you have all the differences in the diameter and all that, and what comes together inside the tank, whether there is a sterile, where is a sort of a warmer or whatever things you will find later on when you get the details of all this particular machine. Besides the main one, you have the support system that maintain or increases the ability, capacity of the equipments. And then we have gone through all this. So this is a bigger sort of network of multiple switch, bigger than the PLC. And then the power wiring, as I mentioned, if you're doing version for the runway. So you see the value will estimate the size, number of linear feet of the conduit and the wire. And then numbers of motors in between if you have, the supply boxes, the switching between the equipment and the MCC. So never miss one. So this is how important a valuer, when you go on site, you have to make sure that you captured all this in your inspections books. Just to show you, this is the sample of the inspections books that you have. And everything that you have, you will record here. Okay? So you have the record here. And then this is what you have to record. Each and every equipment that you have. Just imagine, for the 41 kilometers of the baggage handling system, I got to go one by one, next to it, next, and to the next. Until at the end of the day, you add on all the length, you get the measurements. It took me about 25 days to complete the 41 kilometers baggage handling system of the Terminal 1 Kuala Lumpur International Airports. So, okay. So that's the fun of doing inspection of plant machinery equipments. like this piping. All this piping that includes not only the piping, but the valve, the fittings, the pumps with all the different sizes of the pumps and the process control. And we have to know the purpose of the piping. So you might browse through piping. Sometimes they are used to pipe some of the natural water, gases, chlorine, and all kind of use. So these are in the industrial piping. You have to not only measure it, but to know exactly where they are located, like the oil refinery plant. Because sometimes any plant well, if you are looking at any particular factory or manufacturing industry, what you see is just a structure like that. But as a plant well, how do you begin with? How to start off with taking all those information? So there must be a techniques on how to go about it. Just be patient. We'll go through it later on. And then the foundations, of course, we have to understand the foundation because part of the machines that we value, sometimes the foundation might worth an equivalent to the machine that is installed on it. Because the preparation of foundation is something sometimes very important because the foundation is meant to withstand the weight of that particular machine that is going to be put on it. Like even like these special foundations, we need to understand what are the types of foundation they prefer. Like for instance, this heavy foundation for the way bridge, for the way bridge, whether it's split type or whether it's spitless type. Because there is a difference in the cost, different in the price. So the supplier might say that if you are preferring the first choice, the price might worth A. If you're taking the second, it might worth B. So that is the importance of and equipment foundations, structure supports, and all that. So that is important. And then all those structural supports that you will observe within the factory, it needs to be taken into account. Like this primary framing, all the platform, all the access way, all the safety system, all must be taken into account. That's why if you have all this catwalk, ladder, platform, and all that, those are the items that normally will take into considerations. And then we talk about the material handling and storage equipments. You will find all these unlicensed moving equipments within the factory, like the forklift, loader, conveyor, crane, hoist, pallet mover, programmable inventory system, and all that. So that is part of the machine and equipments that you need to value if you're asked to incorporate in the reports. Like the mobile equipment, fixed conveyors, automated system, lifting equipments, where are the control system, and what are the capacity, and all that. So these are the baggage handling system, which I've experienced and doing in the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. You just imagine you have how many level of equipments that become the baggage handling systems mechanical things construct in there from the ticketing up onto the first layer until the lower part of the baggage control systems. You see there. Okay. So this is another photographs that shows the ticketing system and the conveyor system underneath the ticketing systems. Okay, and then the overhead track conveyor. I mean, so all this the lifting containers and all that. So these are another example. And then the examples of the forklift and all that, the wheel loader examples, and then the other general equipments with regards to what you will see in the factory, like these benches, rack, locker, scales, hand truck, time recorder, fire extinguisher, similar asset. Now, why all these are important things that is listed? Because sometimes the client might wants to insure their machines, their equipments. So you need to understand the purpose of valuation, what you are supposed to carry out. Okay. And then the rolling stock, like the plant vehicles, like truck, trains, tractor, mobile equipments not licensed that use for road, and the licensed vehicles that normally use in their business. Okay. The laboratories, like the microscopes, the clean table fumes, food, and then the ventilation system and all that. And then all these are also need to be included. Then comes to office furnitures. Sometimes a plant valuer need also to undertake valuations of things other than the normal machine and all that, like furnitures, fitting, equipments, computers, laptops. So these are also parts of the what we consider as plant machinery equipments. Because even in a training center, for example, in the training center, there are quite numbers of all these furnitures and fittings that you will find in the training center and all that. So that photocopy machines, fax machines, check writers and typewriters. Okay, computer equipments. Always remember that sometime when you do valuation for the computer system, sometime you also ask to do the software valuation. That could be another special skill that you need to have. But if you are not asked, then you have to exclude that. Because some of the software, a dedicated software for that particular processing plant might worth millions of dollars, because it's a very special software that is dedicated for that particular manufacturing industry. Okay, these are the cycle of the computer and equipment system, like the workstation, the software asset, the server, the network system, and all others that comes in within. Okay, these are the examples. Even perhaps when it comes to tools, the permanent tools and the perishable tools. So these are the very detail of what we need to understand in terms of whenever we do valuation for plant machinery equipments, like permanent tool, maybe portable electric and air tools, anvil, vices, gauges, chuck, and all other similar assets. Okay, special tooling. This is what I mentioned also earlier, that special tooling might worth very expensive. Special tooling for that particular usage for that particular types of equipments. Construction in progress, special classes. Okay, that's the end of our second session. Still okay? Sometimes people saying that learning plant machinery is very tough subject, because you're talking about machines, you've got nothing that is can create the things that interesting or what. But that's how the life of plant development. Sometimes you need to be very serious, because sometimes even from my past experience, to get an information, to get a descriptions, even perhaps on certain things, I just couldn't imagine how to describe that particular machine. Go to browse through the website and all that. Finally, you manage to get it. Even sometimes you go on site, you're not able to trace what are that particular machine used for. But there are certain signs that you can that indicate for you to write on the certain numbering or whatever information you have. You just write on it and then try to search in the internet. If you're lucky, you'll be able to get it. I can tell you. But maybe probably late midnight and all that after everything is very quiet, you suddenly get something that out of something you never come across before. So that is the interesting of doing plant machinery. Even my very first experience doing relation for the airports, I've not done any relation for the airports before. But when I first tried, finally I get 9 volumes of reports for the international airports. So just amazing. But it's not a one-man job. We have about 8, 10 travelers working with it, because for the airport you have quite numbers of sections, like the baggage handling system, the aero train, the aero bridges, all the substations you have, and then the electric substation, the water treatment plant, we have the water treatment for chlorinations and all that. And then we also have things like the aircraft crash system. We have the fire engine sections. So all this we divide accordingly. And at the end of the day, we push the reports. Then preparing the appendices in terms of having all the layout and all that. So that's how we go. Okay, can we move to number 3, please? Now it's 3:15. We go to who can help me to number 3. What are you from here? Number 3. Number 3. Ah, yes.
Hello. Hello, Professor.
Hi.
Hello. Respond to them.
Okay, here comes the since our themes of this conference is about beyond bricks and mortar, of course, we're going beyond our normal way of doing valuations. Now, we talk about how to go about with valuations of plant machinery equipments. We're going to cover 4 parts generally on the introduction, interpretation, the approach and methods of evaluation, and finally the depreciation. Even the depreciation, I will have another slot which talk about obsolescence and depreciation. How we will be able to recognize the different types of depreciation and the ability to understand how to come out with the computations of depreciation, or even perhaps in the depreciation, sometimes it's not only by the formula. If you are very experienced plant valuer, from the look of what you see, you're able to gauge the conditions and whatever the look of that particular equipments. So as for the procedure of the plant, machinery, and equipment evaluations, Of course, we identify the ownership and asset inventory compilations. This is rule number one. It's very important because if you're doing valuation in a place whereby there quite a number of ownerships in that particular place, then the first rule is that you have to identify the actual equipments that you are supposed to value. Just imagine if you are doing a valuation for the airports. Within the airport, there are equipments that belong to the authority of the who manage the airports. They could be some of the equipment that belong to the immigrations, or even the customs, or even to the airlines, the police, and many more. So, having said that, that is something that we need to understand in the first place. That is to know the ownerships of that particular um, uh, machine or equipments. And of course, when we do valuations, we have to understand what is our client request, the purpose of the valuation, whether for market value, for financial, for insurance, or for whatever. So, and then, of course, with that, we will able to estimate, of course, when you're having your first trip to the place, you're able to estimate the time frame for you to complete the job. Because normally the client will ask you how long this you can complete the valuation task. Because some client, they need to be very fast. Like, I give you 3 days. Can we able to do that? And then, of course, followed by that is the field inspections and the verifications of the plant and equipments. Then we go on to the next stage of the things to identify what would be the general identifications of the equipments, and later on to the nitty-gritty of that little equipments into the micro description as to looking into the age, the condition, the verification, and also together with that to photograph the equipments that we are going to value. Even then, there are some confidential and a very highly security area where you can't photograph. So that we have to bear in mind. There's some places they don't allow you to photograph at all. So because in doing valuation, that even prior to that certain procedure, like you will undergo certain security brief, certain requirement that is needed by the factory or the place that you're going to inspect. Then, all in all, we have to explain the scope of the valuations. So once we have the scope of valuation, then we establish the basis of valuation, whether the valuation is based on the market value in situ, ex situ, removal, reinstatement new, indemnity, depending if it is for insurance, of course, indemnity or reinstatement new, and then the limitations of the reports. Then we describe the approach, then of course the normal approach of valuation that normally we do in our valuation day-to-day valuations. Then we go on to the conclusions. So, of course, in the primary process, this identifying the ownership is important, as I mentioned. We are very clear on the ownerships, and then we determine the purpose, and then finally, we ask them to do the site briefing so that we can understand what is the functions of all the equipments that we're going to undertake the valuations. And then for the field inspection and the verification is about the micro identification and the micro identification. I will give the example of how the macro and the micro identification look like later on. And then the scope of valuation with regards to the basis of valuation is which I mentioned just now about the market value in situ, the ex situ, the removable basis, the reinstatement, all these have their own way of handling things. And then, of course, we have the limitations of the reports in terms of intended use identification, and then the limiting condition, as well as the scope restrictions and assumptions that is made. The scope of restriction is very important because later on, if you are called to the high court or to the court, are you able to convince for whatever you have prepared, or the report is prepared for you to make justification in the court later on? So those are the things that you have to clarify with the client, because if it needs a very more detailed report, then all these things has got to be specified very clearly. And then, of course, the valuation approach, whether it's a market approach, whether it's a cost approach, or the income approach. And then, as we have discussed just now, the in situ means the value in current location and the configuration. And if we talk about the ex situ, these are the terms that normally we use in doing valuation of plant machinery equipments, like value for removal and relocation, the in use, that is going concern with the value as part of the operating business. It means somebody else will going to take over the premise and to continue business for that particular place. And then reproduction cost, new cost to replace with new equivalents. And then liquidation value is removal, whether it's orderly or post liquidations. Because sometimes you might ask to undertake valuation for orderly liquidation value. So that is a term for that. So you have to check what will be the term for orderly liquidation value or post liquidations. So that is also a term for that, which you have to explain in the reports. So why valuation basis matters is because that it is for the intended use of that particular reports. And then it must reflect the truth of what we have gathered on site and the conditions of that particular equipment that we have inspected. And based on the data that we have analyzed, we come up with that, the truth worth of that particular machine or the equipment. So this is important because imagine that you ask to undertake valuation for insurance. Let's say when we did valuation for the national airports, we have been asked to undertake valuation for insurance purpose. And the insurance company is not a local company in Malaysia. The insurance company that they're going to have the policy is in UK. Okay? So just imagine the trust of the report must comply to the international requirements. And for whatever worth of that particular valuation that you have tabled is something that is very the reflections of the true worth of that particular machine for whatever it costs, whether the machine got fire or whatever. So just imagine that is the nature of a valuable job. So if you miscalculate or provide something that is not a reflections of the true value, then we know the repercussions. Okay. And the three categories of the plant machinery valuation, like insurance valuation, continuing business assessment, market valuation, is something that I suppose we have understand what been explained just now. And in the insurance valuation overview is that normally whatever a clients ask us, they have the option whether to have the reinstatement with new or indemnity. Are we clear about these two terms? Reinstatement new means equivalent with the new worth of that particular machine. That means you don't take an allowance for depreciation. So if you got to replace, you got to replace an equivalent to that particular. But indemnity means is depreciated value, something like that in the simple terms. Like normally we insure our car, normally we insure based on the current indemnity value. Maybe once it's more than 5-6 years old, it's depreciated value. But for reinstatement new, it's an equivalent to replace that particular model of that car. So that is something a bit technical in terms of to understand, but the terms that forever I have experienced before when we did the valuation for the Kuala Lumpur International Airport is about the reinstatement new, because they do not have support from the government. The concessional companies is liable for everything, so they insured it with the higher payments of the policy value. Okay. So when we talk about the basis of the insurance reinstatement with new, it's about the something to do with the ex-work costs, the transportation costs, installation, commission, duties, taxes, and debris removal. So these are the elements. It's just like when you do insurance valuation for a building, for a house. So you have to include debris, and even perhaps sometimes we also include inflationary rates for maybe a provision for 2 years, a few percent in a year, multiplied by 2. So that means that you have covered for the inflationary rates as well. So that is just to reflect, to ensure that is fully recovered, whatever things that you want to claim damages later on. And then for the scenario, we could see whether the property is destroyed, the property is damaged, then this statement will come along. Okay. And then for the reinstatement cost consideration, there's insurable contingencies, the non-recoverable taxes, and debris removal. Why we say like this? Because like insurable contingency is that for plant, machinery, and equipment valuation, something that is very different from the land and building is you has to include the transportation, installation, and commissioning costs. Even you are buying a second-hand equipment, but for insurance, transportation, and commissioning costs is the current cost. So that is something different from land and building. And for non-recovery taxes like duty, fees, and applicable taxes that cannot be recovered. So this also included in the valuation as well. And the debris removal is cost of cleaning the damaged equipments and material later on. Once they are, maybe you need to clear up the debris and all that. So that also has to be incorporated in the valuations. Likewise, for the basis of the insurance on indemnity, the indemnity valuation, it reflects the intrinsic monetary worth of the plant. That means to say they represent the cost of the as the date of valuations to place the insured back to the same financial position prior to the whatever loss they incurred. So that is important because I think would our friend online miss the topic or not?
Yeah, it's online.
Okay. Okay.
I check.
All right. Thank you. By the way, if you think that you want to ask anything, just raise your hand and then ask me straight away, rather than we wait until the end of the day and then maybe you have forgotten what to ask and all that. Because doing valuations of plant machinery equipment is always like that. Sometimes, oh yeah, I don't really understand what actually you are explaining here. What is it actually? Because I'm talking based on what I've done previously and what we know we do and then how we come about, how we discuss with the person in charge there, how we deal with getting all the information from the supplier and all that. And that's how we work in terms of getting all this information. Even when I did the Petronas methanol plant, one of the biggest methanol plant for the Petronas own in one of the state in Malaysia. It was more than 2 billion worth of Malaysia ringgit. So it's a very specialized sort of equipments that you need to really understand beforehand before you start to do that valuation. So not like a simple ordinary valuation where you just get information by the phone call and all that, but sometimes you need to understand their specification, and then you need to understand how they go about with all this pricing and all that. And even you go to any of this manufacturing industry, some of the equipment, they are not built as one complete equipment by itself. It's a combination, the fabrications of equipments. They have to add on the motors. They have add on the some other parts to ensure they functions well. Okay. Now I don't see the slide anymore. You think you need a stop or what? Just short rest or short break?
In your presentation,
Listen.
hello, can you hear me? In your presentation, it is noted that the part of the site or the building also well add to the cost of the machinery sometimes. I want to differentiate how it differs from the purpose of valuation, whether building is considered or not. Either under the going concern value, the fair value measurement, we can have a building also as a part of it. But in the mortgage valuation, how can it either liquidation or mortgage valuation? I want to differentiate.
The difference between
How it values when you value the plant and machinery for that purpose, is it taken the building value as a part of machinery or not? Especially the building needs that a site need to be prepared, the foundation, and also the sometime it may be a piping and all that as you so likewise.
No, that's why when we talk about the valuation, it's about the information that we have beforehand. You mean to say if there is a foundation, there's an equipment and all that. So what we have in hand is that we have to get all the documentations of what been provided by the clients. But even perhaps sometimes the client also don't have any other information besides what they have in their invoice or in their records documents. So whenever we do in the valuations of plant machinery equipments, we rely from the descriptions of what is being spelled out in the reports. So even all the claims, it must be referred to what is specifically, been described in the report. That's why this description for any equipment is very important in the first place, in terms of the capacity, in terms of the load bearing. For instance, you have the foundation, what will be the load bearing, in terms of the size and everything that you need to have. So having said that, for whatever claims or damages must be based on that. That's why even I give an example just now, even like you want to value a weighbridge. So what are the type of the weighbridge that you have? So we have to equate that weighbridge from the market that we have, and that is the true reflections of the worth of value that we advise our client. So when come to maybe whatever they claim from the insurance company, the adjuster will base on that. Okay, but in the case of indemnity, is about taking into consideration the depreciation. Okay, the depreciation of that particular machines. That means to say it has been deteriorated with wear and tear and all that. So that will be the worth of that particular machines. Okay. Yeah.
I means what, how the cost of building means the specific building prepared for the specific machine.
The
Uh,
cost
The cost of the building,
of the building
how it considered, if it.
or the bidding.
Yeah, for the fair value measurement, it can be taken as a fair value, that financial reporting, it can be taken as a machine. But even for the liquidation, either that mortgage purpose, we have to dismantle the machine and sold out it. Then
Oh, okay.
that structure of the building cannot be taken as it is, as the value.
Can you give me an examples?
If you say there's a machine, there's a generator or something, we buy for the company for the 5 million worth, and also we have to make a structure for that as another 100,000 or something. Then the total value for the machine for the fair value or the financial reporting may be 5 million plus that 100.
Okay.
For the mortgage purpose, can it be take as that 500 plus 1, or that it is only the 5 million? That's how I ask whether that how would you differentiate that for the
Yeah.
purpose of valuations?
But I don't think I have come across any of the situation like that, because what we have come across is that if there is a real options like what I come across in one of the case that I handled in New Zealand, the the only thing is that for whatever is been offered in the market, you can't get the price, then they will just go for another bidding and sort of until finally they will come to an agreement. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but we talked later about I just couldn't get the bidding one.
Because there are some leased land in here, Sri Lanka, for the industrial purpose. Then they have spent so much money for the structures and all that. But in the mortgage purpose, we don't take such structures value all that they're asking. Why do you don't take that? We are spent on that so much. Then like
No, I mean, yeah, that is true. You have to spend so much on it, but at the end of the day, you cannot get what you have spent. Well, that is the reality of what things are all about. I mean, there will be some situation you cannot gain out of something that you cannot claim. It's something like even though you have spent so much, but then just simply because that is not the situation where you're able to get the claim, then maybe probably you're on the losing side. So that's what I can see will happen.
the same thing arise when it is an individual machine, you can value as individually. But in the consider the plant, the stage wise steps are there. Then they have put so many cost on that, and we have to come across with that situation also. Then so
To dismantle,
yeah,
they come into pieces.
yeah.
So there is this the uniqueness about plant improvements. Once the you have done the dismantling, then the price become a piece of equipment by itself. And it could be reflect reduce the price. Because once it's assembled, that means you got to take along the work, the value of all the installation, the insurance, the whatever, the factors that you have to take considered. But if it is like we look at some of the instances where it's exceeded. So that is, it has reduced in the price, even though it was so much initially, but later on, you can't claim all whatever you have done to it before it break into smaller pieces.
Yeah, in such type of plants that we have very, as valuers, we are in a very mess because when go to the mortgage purposes, the such reduction on uh, cannot be done for the dismantling because the business is going concern and also the owned by same
different.
person. Yeah,
Different.
Yeah.
But constant means continuous see how the business continue. You take the premise, then you assume that you need to continue. But if it is as a piecemeal basis exceeded, then it means to say that it becomes pieces, and then of course it reflects less value.
Oh. Thank you.
And then they can't claim more than that.
Sure. Thank you.
And that is the disadvantages of the valuation we go along that options.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Over there. Maybe can share what we have done. Okay. Like this debris remover, I've explained about whatever cost necessary, because this is an estimate of what you assume that if something that you need to cover the machine or equipment, just in case you need to clean up if the building of damage and all that. So that is part of the factors that you have to take into considerations. Okay. And then on the existing use value is the value also known as market value in situ. Is on the assumption that the plant machinery equipment that continue in the present existing use, and then on the basis recognize that this equipment has value beyond its scrap or removable value when it continues to contributes to an ongoing business operations. Okay, this is very clear. And then these are the open market value definitions in terms of whenever you want to derive the market value definitions of an interest in regards to PME, what is expected to be sold at the date of the valuation is the main assumptions is that as we understand from the definitions of and all that. So, applies in this context of market value. In terms of special purchaser, no accounts is taken for the additional bits of special purchaser. And then, of course, the market exposure is that is freely exposed to market with static value. And then the options for this valuation is as a whole in a working place or as individual item for removal. And then, of course, when we look into the detail of a whole in working place and individual item for removal, of course, the value is totally different from between the two. Okay. Okay, when we talk about continuing business, is the valuation to assess the market value is ongoing business. with no chain in hand. And the open markets, they assume that it will continue its presence, existing use in a business. In other words, is the worth of that existing value. And then when we talk about in situ, it's about what is present within that particular area of the place of work, and with no reasonable time limit imposed and completions of the transactions. And of course, it must be there permanently. And when we talk about for removal, it's a price that anyone will get in a market where there is a true reflections of what it reflects when we compare with other items of that particular equipments that we value. So in other words, you represent the maximum amount of purchase would pay to have a similar machines in their own factory, fully installed and commissioned for production. Even perhaps when we talks about the installations and transportation, commission and all that, it depends on where does it to be included, whether to the buyer or to the seller. So that must be make it very clear. If the buyer is responsible for the transportation, for the commissioning, for the installation, then of course the price will have to deduct. But if the seller is responsible, and then they have to add on the element of installation, commissioning, and transportation and all that. So all this depending on the terms agreed between the two parties. Okay. So the three approaches, I shall not elaborate any further about the market approach, the cost approach, and the income or the profit approach. Perhaps I have experienced all these three approaches. I remember when I did one of the valuation for the ferry valuations, I go on with the three approaches on the market, cost, and the income approach, because the client able to provide me with the 4 years accounts, and then we're able to now from there work on the worth of that particular ferry based on all these approaches. So let me skip on the explanation of the market approach is there. And then of course, these are something that we normally do in real estate valuation, like direct match, comparable match, a percent of cost and all that. So if you got something that is, you can, compare apple to apple, orange to orange, then you can just simply go by direct comparison and all that. And then if they need to be some adjustment, so you have to adjust accordingly. And then of course, by the cost approach, of course, remember, whenever machine or equipment that you derive from the cost approach, there are new things that you cannot depreciate. If you are installing a particular equipment and bring it to the site, there could be some costs that involve for the preparations of transporting that equipment to the site in terms of transportation, and then you need to cover the transportation with insurance, and you have to have another maybe charges of labor intensive or whatever, then that is to be included as part of the value of that particular machines. So in terms of the cross approach application is to establish the whatever replacement cost new, and then provide all the depreciations, and then of course determine the depreciated value, that is from the analysis of depreciations. And then, of course, like the income approach is to derive whatever income from that particular business and deduct all the whatever no expenditures that is the reflections of that particular business, and then probably at the end of the day you multiply by the multiplier. And then even when we calculate the depreciation and obsolescence, I will have another slot after this on just particular concern and concentrate on how to go about with the obsolescence and depreciations, like referring to these Russian tables. Actually, Russian table is basically about the you derive a percentage by the straight line methods or the diminishing value methods. Okay, so I shall not deal in length about all this the strength and the weaknesses, but these are the normal things that we normally approach in doing the market approach, like always say that market approach is the most reliable indicator. And then, of course, in terms of weaknesses, it has a lack of comparable sales and subjectivity, comparable adjustment, why you take 10%, why you take 5% and all that. So maybe sometimes it's arguable. And then but at the end of the day, you have to come up with the figures that actually reflect the market value. And of course, when you talk about the cost approach, is the best approach, because other than the comparison that you have, maybe probably you can have the actual cost from the supplier, then only that reflects the marketability of that particular machines. And of course, sometimes it's a time consuming in terms of getting the actual cost. If you got good relationships with the supplier, or sometimes you can convince the supplier, because supplier maybe probably sometimes they only look after who is their best a client, whoever wants to buy their machines or their assets, not to get comparables like we valuer who look after to get all this evidence of sales and that and all that. And then, of course, in terms of the income approach, maybe sometimes it reflects the best way of looking at the what actually the worth of that particular machine from what you can derive from that particular business. It still depends on whether they are things that practical or not in certain places whereby sometimes this approach is not applicable at all. Okay. So when we talk assumptions of the plant machinery valuations, on the ex-situ sales assumption is about asset and equipment that was sold ex-situ that is removed from the current location. That is the assumption. And the current pricing basis is valuation based on prices that is currently available from manufacturer and supplier. Of course, sometimes even the supplier, they will let you know if some of the equipment is no longer in their productions. Because I remember I did quite a number of findings, and then getting information from the manufacturer. They said now they have come out with a new model. But of course, when you were to establish the model that you have currently with you on site, you have to adjust with whatever differences in the characteristics of that particular machine, in terms of like, maybe for instance, the new model, they have upgraded the capacity in terms of the outputs. Previously, they're able to produce certain volume of output, but now they have enhanced into a much better. So that could be some allowable sort of factors to be taken into consideration. And the other factors on the assumption sample in the plant machinery evaluation is that equivalent asset. So where asset no longer available based on the nearest equivalent on the last known price. So this is quite obvious if you are doing valuation for places whereby the asset has been there for quite some time. And then of course, finally, the condition assumption. Always that we have in our reports to say that if there is no engineering reports, commissions, we have to mention that in the, otherwise we are not the engineer who certify that the particular machine is in good running condition and all that. Even perhaps when I was asked to do valuation for the ferry, so I have to get a maintenance reports and conditions of that ferry from the departments of vessel in Malaysia, because this department, they used to conduct inspections and provide detailed conditions of any ferry or vessel or ships in our country. So from that reports, we attach it to our reports. So we base on the report from that particular agencies. So if you need to have a report from an engineer, for instance, you have to attach that report because they are the professions that are, accredited to put the whatever reports on the conditions or the status quo of that particular. Even like if you ask to undertake a valuation of the aircraft, the airlines probably one day will come to your place to ask for valuation for the aircraft. Now, of course, the aircraft you need to have the flying diaries and all that. No, the how many takeoff they have done in a year, how many landing they have done in a year. So all these records of the flying for that particular aircraft you need to have in hand before you start to draft the report for that particular aircraft valuations. Okay. I hope we can finish on time with another 2 more sections. But as usual, we call for any questions. Would you be able to my lecture? Is it okay? Very
Hello?
clear?
Hello, can you hear me, Professor? Hello? Professor, can you hear me?
Oh, maybe there.
Can you hear me, Professor?
What is the question?
The question is, I want to find out, have you in your experience, have you ever done valuation based on indexation?
Again?
Have you done any valuations on indexing? Where sometimes you do not get the prices of these machinery, which are fairly old and technologically obsolescent, has set in.
Indexing
And
method.
then you can do a little bit of valuation by indexing. Have you ever done valuation on indexing?
You mean in the indexing?
Indexing.
Okay.
Valuation by indexing.
That means to say you here.
You get the old book values and then adjust it by indexing,
Okay.
right? And have you done that? And we tend to do that more often than not, because you cannot get a feedback from the manufacturers. Most of the cases, the plant and machinery, most of them are old, especially in Sri Lanka, and we cannot get the original manufacturers' prices. And by the time we get a price, what happens is it is either for a technologically advanced ones or with a higher capacity. So what we tend to do is we adopt indexing.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you
okay.
done? I'm curious to know that you have such big experience almost everywhere in the world, whether you have done that type of valuations by indexing. By the way, my name is Dimel. My name is Dimel.
Now, if I can summarize the question is that whether we can do valuation indexing, is it? No, we have tried when
Sorry?
valuation
Sorry?
that just talk.
Connection is not very good.
Okay. Like all these instruments.
Can I repeat the question again? Can I repeat the question again?
Huh?
This is, in other words, this is almost another methodology. Indexation. You up the value based on say indexation. Say for instance, now let us take the exchange rate.
Is this still asking or I just? Okay. Now, you see, of course, the art of valuation is so long you have any good, explanation how you derive your value. It depends on whatever information you have in hand. If you have a good index systems and you have established, and then or even perhaps sometimes you can check, like in some other departments, like the work department that we have in Malaysia, they have established an index on the building, but so far I've not seen any index on the machines. But if any of our friend here or online participants that can establish an index to establish a value based on your analysis and your finding, so you can do so. There's nothing to stop you from doing that, because if you have already established an index from whatever year you start off with the valuation of plant machinery equipments, so that index can be one of the justification for you to establish the worth of the machine equipments when you do not have any other evidence to support um, your your machines value. So I mean, as simple as that. Okay. Okay. Can we go to number 4? Or try? Number 5. Let me see. Measurement for quantification. You can hide this, can you? Break it down. No, this- Okay, thanks. Okay, this next topic is about the measurements of quantification of depreciation and obsolescence. This is something to do with how we derive the straight line methods and diminishing methods by the Rasen tables, and what are the formulas that we come to that analysis of percentage. So stop moving. Okay. Okay. Why we need to understand the depreciation and obsolescence, as what the Kiribur party in the evaluations of the plant and machinery books have said, that when we look into the aspect of depreciation, is about the status of the wear and tear of that particular physical object. So it means to say that that wear and tear is the natural deteriorations of assets over time through the physical use and aging. It means the physical context of the equipments. While on the other hand, you're looking at the obsolescence is something that is as exogenous factors, whether it's a technology, whether it's a functional, whether it's economic. So it represents loss in value due to the external changes, not representing the physical deteriorations. So these the two different meaning of depreciation and obsolescence, and it applies to plant machinery equipments, because sometimes we look into the plant machinery equipment is about depreciation because of the wear and tear elements, but on the other hand, they might also have the element of obsolescence in terms of is non-economical. They probably lack of supply of raw materials to process whatever productions that need to be processed. So they been refused by the authority to renew their license. That could be because of the legal implication and all that. So that is another aspect of obsolescence. So all in all, when we do valuation, we really have to identify this situation whereby in what situation that we are going to allow, whether we're going to allow the depreciation or we're going to allow the obsolescence. Because sometimes the factory might be just been operated for quite numbers, maybe a few years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, but it cannot proceed to continue the business just because that is an element of obsolescence to the factory. So even perhaps like if we look into the takeover definitions, define the measures of the measure of wearing out of consumptions or other permanent loss of value of fixed assets, whether arising from the use, reflections of time and obsolescence, whether through technology or market changes. So these are some of the extract of definitions that I able to get from some of the standards. Even the RICS, it talks about measures of cost or revalue amount of economic benefits of the tangible fixed asset that have been consumed during the periods. So it talks about the deteriorations and the whatever assets that has reduced in their worth because of their time, and then either they have gone through the technology changes and whatnot. And then like the ICREMV New Zealand, it talks about loss in value that may caused by deteriorations, decay, wear and tear or damage or any kind which changes the physical conditions so as to reduce the usefulness. So these are all the some of the definitions. And the key terminologies about when we talk about depreciation is about, we have to understand, when we talk about depreciation, we have to understand what are the content of the depreciation all about. The whether we are going to look into one of the item is the normal useful life. That is the expected period of an asset to function effectively. So whenever the equipment could function effectively, then we consider that that is the useful normal life. And then, of course, on the depreciation part, whether we can consider this depreciation can be, overcome or not, curable or not. That deterioration can be economically repaired. So we have to allow for a percentage to reflect the curable deteriorations. And it cannot be curable, then if the deterioration cannot be corrected, it means to say that for whatever reasons, that particular machine cannot be replaced at all. So for whatever worth of that particular machine, maybe it's already ending the life. It's almost retired. Okay, so that means to say that it can become a scrap value or whatever. And then in terms of the economic age life, is a period equipment contributes the economic value. What will be the worth of that particular machine during that economic age period or age life? So that is the worth that we're going to identify and come up with our valuation reports. And the other parts of terminology that sometimes we look is the physical life. It means to say the total period machinery will last with the maintenance. Sometimes the machine can go even after the expiry of that useful life because of good maintenance, of good well kept, and then with the proper maintenance, they have a good after sales and whatever. So that also can be considered as something worth to that particular machines. And the effective life is the age indicated by condition and utility. So this is also another area that a valuer would consider. So when we come to discuss about the normal useful life, so sometimes it could be a bit tricky, a bit complex, because we really have to see that things like the physical life before overhaul, for instance, the time until major maintenance required. So maybe probably at that point of time, what worth to that particular machine could be very much less when it wanted to be market to the third party. But until it has undergone a certain major maintenance, repair, and whatever, that particular machine can operate in a uh, fair manner as what it's before. So that is a worth value of that particular machine. And even perhaps there are situations where the physical life before rebuild limits, a point where rebuilding becomes uneconomical. Even you want to replace, the cost of replacement is more than if you were to buy a new one. There are quite a number of instances whereby I experienced, even like we have some of the equipment like, milling machine, lathe and all that, because of the technological, advancements, some of the machines, if they are no a need for repairs, you got to send back to the country of the origin. So the amount of money you spend sending it back, and then the cost of repair is more than what you have to incur. So that considered very ineconomic. It's good to by anyone. So that's why even in our report, we have to mention that some of this finding that is in the state of disrepair and whatever we can suggest to our client, because we have to do certain analysis and a judgment for any particular machine which are in this group. And there are also instances whereby the economic life, all depreciations, considered all form of accrued depreciations. So you have that situation as well. And there are also an economic life functional only, exclude physical condition, focus on the function. So this is something that sometimes the machine is already expired, but still can produce something that is worth value to that particular machine. So that is the situation. So we're talking about curable, incurable deterioration just now. These are the sample. And then the economic life, contribution periods. So already been explained just now. And then on the physical life, of course, the physical life is the total, whatever time periods that the machinery and equipment will last to rebuild using a standard and preventive maintenance. That's why sometimes it's good to have records of maintenance and all that to check whether they have complied with all this. Even like if you're buying cars and all that, sometimes some of these owners of the car, they send their cars to the the origins of their car maintenance that have the standard maintenance procedure. Then maybe probably that will make the car worth more than if they send it to all the some other ordinary workshops and all that. So that is the examples of what we can see. And then when we talk about effective age, it's also known as exhausted life. Exhausted life, there is a time or age indicated by the conditions and utility of an items. Okay. So this another parts of when a valuer, a plant machinery valuer, visit or inspect on site. So normally, in the records of inspections that we carry, will gauge the conditions of the asset based on this coding. So you have the N coding, E coding, VG coding, G, F, P, and S or X. So what it represents is that when we put the notes there, it is E. It means it's excellent, just like brand new. So if it is VG, then means to say that it's very good, but need no repair required for a foreseeable future. We estimate that it's something like that. But if it is with the coding of G, then it requires a standard routine maintenance, and the code goes on to F, P, and S. So whenever you put on the inspection notes all this coding, then you understand that once you're back to the office, then there are certain percentage that you have to allow for depreciation and all that. So those who are very experienced, they normally they go by these codes. Okay. How you establish, I don't have any clear guide for you to do, but whenever you say that it's good, so that is the category that we have classified here. Okay. They the determinations of depreciation, they we have classified it into three primary methods. One is the observe, that you see on site, you observe. I will think that this object is maybe probably about 40% deteriorations or 80%. You just observe and put a percentage on what the physical condition you look at it. And then we have the straight line methods, the equal depreciation amount over the assets, the useful life, and the diminishing or the declining balance, higher depreciation in the early years, and then it decreases over times. So the observed deterioration methods is also being called as 0 to 100% methods. And how we come up with this 0 to 100% is something like this on the screen. So if it is new, it means to say that it's between 0 to 5% depreciation. If it is excellent, it's 6 to 10% depreciation. It's how you segmentalize these conditions. If it is very good, then it's 11 to 20% depreciation. If it is good, it's 21 to 50% depreciation, and it goes on fair, poor. And if it is more than 91%, it can be scrapped or even perhaps considered as something that is no longer can be used. Okay. So a general overview about the straight line methods is about how, in the first place, we determine the replacement methods, and then we estimate the scrap value. So normally in my practice, I will just make an estimate of the scrap value 10%, or for whatever in practice that you can do any percentage that you are familiar with, so that you know that the end life of the equipment will be that much. Okay. And then you calculate the amount of the depreciable amount, and then of course divide the economic by the life year. So like, for instance, you have this on the screen. You have a machine that costs about 100,000 ringgit Malaysia. The economic is 5 years, and you have established the scrap value as 10%. So in other words, you deduct the 10% from 100K, and then you get the 90,000. Do you divide by 5? That amounts to 18,000. Then for every year until the 5 years of this estimates equipment, you have a depreciation of 18%. So that is one way of doing the depreciations. Okay, that if it amounts to 90,000 for 5 years. So it means to say it's a straight line method like that, 100 to 10K. Okay, until the end of 5 years, that is 100K. So in terms of the multiplier value, that is how you derive. From the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, until the final year, 10%. So how do you get this? You can check with the Rasun tables for 5 years. Okay, you look at the 5 years, the second row, the top line, the straight line methods. So that is the formula. The 0.82, 0.64, 0.46, 0.28, and 10. So that's how we derive 0.64, 0.46, 0.28, and 0.10. So this is simple methods. If you are interested to do in your own Excel, maybe you can do in your Excel program. You have Excel, just build in the formula. You will get the results of the multiplier value. So if we estimate that the equipment is 5 years economic life, and now it's in the second year, so we just multiply by 0.64. Then you get the value, the worth of that particular equipment. If it is 4 years, year 4, you multiply by 0.28. So as simple as that. So the other alternative is to look into the diminishing of reductions in the depreciations, the reducing balance. So this is the second approach. So you have 100K divided by 5 is 20K, but now it's 20%. Okay, I just follow it. So by the residual balance, you will see that every year from the year 1, you have 80,000, but year 5, you have 32,768. But now since you have allowed for 10K to be the last scrap value, so how do you adjust that in the residual balance? So now you want to change the 32,000 to 10,000 because using the straight line method, residual balance would be 10,000, showing a significance. There's a difference of 22,768. So in other words, now we have to address this difference, the 33K and the 10,000. So this is the book value formula. Okay. So this is the book to correct the depreciation for this. So if you compute the formula, that is what you will get. Then you will get that to achieve the target scrap value of 10K. Okay. Now you got this formula. That's why they said for the first year, if you're using the diminishing methods of value, the depreciation is very high. Now, from the very beginning, we have 66K, 39, 25, 16, and finally 10K. And if you translate in terms of the multiplier, so this is what you get. 0.63, 0.4, 0.25, 0.16, and 0.1. So that is the, so we check with the tables. Okay, look at the second column. Down below the diminishing value, you got 0.63, 0.4, 0.25, 0.16, and 0.10. So that's how we compute the 0.10. That's how we compute the diminishing methods multiplier value. So some firm they practice this formula as a multiplier. It's the opposite of the depreciation. When you say that what will be the depreciation of that particular machine? If you're saying that that machine is 40% depreciation, it means to say that for the year 1, it's 0.63. That 0.63 is the 63% of the original value. So we turn the other way around to see that in plant machinery, that's how the plant valuer look at it. Okay, okay, this is how. And then for the technology obsolescence, is due to change in design methods, materials or construction or plant machinery. So this another factors that we have to take along together with the formula just now. Okay, and then the functional obsolescence is about when the machine already in function losses its optimum capacity owing to decline in cooperation from its operating counterpart. Okay, so in terms of economic obsolescence, there you are, the market changes, legislative factors, external, and then in terms of the what are the factors that contribute to the economic obsolescence is about reduced product demand, industry overcapacity, raw material disruption. So sometimes the raw material disruptions is very obvious because if there is no longer supply of raw materials, that will affect the productions and cause price squeeze, government regulation, and all that. So these are the conclusions of the comparing both the straight line and diminishing returns. So for whatever methods you want to choose, is depends on how you want to go about it, and then if you have all the justification, then you might use any of the method to derive your valuations. And then using of a Russian table, we call it Russian table because Mrs. Russian was the one who come out. Actually, is a formula that we derive from the computation that we have calculated just now. So these are the practical application considerations. And then some of the things that we understand from the conclusions of these obsolescences and depreciations. So that's the end of. Then after this, we go to how maybe probably on the examples of valuations that I've come across in getting the comparables and also things that we have done previously. Okay. Would you like to help me to go on with the next slides? Sample, yeah. A sample of the valuation. Nobody talking? Okay, these are very simple sort of extract of some of the valuations that we like to share with everyone on the three case study that we have done. One is on the palm oil mill. Of course, when we do valuations for the palm oil mill, normally what is important is we have the subject of the plant machinery, the process plant, the descriptions in the macro descriptions and the micro, as well as the photograph and the valuations. So when we talk about the subject, it's about what is the palm oil mill all about. It means to say that we start from the descriptions of the plant, how the fruits fresh bun been received from the before it was transported to the mill, and then how it goes within the factory, and how the process go about. And then this the mill, the typical mill of the palm oil mill. And then also in the reports, we'll have the layout, which describe the process of the palm oil mill, right from the weighbridge, the receptions, it goes down to the sterilizer, and then of course they are continuous processing right to the thresher, to the um, press, and then it goes to the extractions of the oil and the kernel. So then only after the extractions of the oil and the kernel, then finally it will goes to uh, the crude palm oil tank and the kernel area where they pack all the kernel, dried kernel. Okay. So these are the simple oil mill flow that I mentioned just now. There are certain stages of how it goes through until the end products. Okay, and then of course these are the normal process that we'll see in any of the palm oil productions, like all this sterilization station. So of course, this is one of the example that I share with you. They could be some other types of sterilizer that you will find on site. So it depends on the whatever types and model of the sterilizers that you will see on site. Okay, this the press stations, and then the clarification where they extract the oil. So all this we go through one by one. And then that details inspection is been carried out from one section to another sections until we end up until the end of the process plant. Okay, this is where the process of the crude, the clarifications, and then the storage, and then of course you have another process to extract the kernel. Okay, this is the kernel processing, and then of course that's the end of the process. So, and then in terms of the macro description, that normally these and examples of how we describe the milling processing, like from the reception and the separation, the extraction. These are very general descriptions about how the reception and sterilizing of the fresh fruit bun is done. So like here we explain how long it takes, and then what does it the functions of these sections and the purpose and everything all about the processing within these sections. So same things as the separations of fruit from the bunch. So these are the explanations. So and then on the micro parts, it'll be the details of the descriptions of that particular sections. It means to say that when we describe what are the equipment that normally you will find within the weighbridge. So this is how we describe. There's a conventions of in the plant values in most places that we describe it with all this uh, simple way of looking at this, so you understand that Metro Toledo is the model, CBU is the type, MTC CDC is the type, and then the capacity is 60 tons. It made up of mild steel, and the measurements of 18 meter by 3.4 meters, and then uh, uh, it is together with the PC printers connections and traffic light. Traffic lights means there are certain systems of lightings attached to it, and then uh, they are typical sort of types of lighting and pillar mounts. So these are uh, uh, the way how we describe. And then of course at the reception area we have another descriptions, how many RAM we have, that what are the other equipment that we have within that area. So as in the Malaysian Western standards, why we mention the brand name, the model name, the type, the function, the serial number, the capacity, the manufacturer year, manufacturing country of origin, and all that. So this is specified in the standards that the standard 15.3.4. So it's the requirement of the valuer to describe the model in detail. That's the micro restrictions. So failing with, they not comply with that. But even if you have this crane, mobile crane, there are ways to describe this mobile crane, like you have here. So this is how we describe the crane, as simple as that. So you have the PNH S20 mobile crane, is 18-ton maximum lift with 25 meter jeeps plus fly jeeps to 33. 58 hours means it has been operated for 58 hours, because sometimes for machine, for genset, for equipment that generate the specific performance like that, how you define them in terms of the age is by the man hours. That's why always see that near the plate engine, you will see that is a reader that indicate the man hours it has been used. So even like a tractor, they don't have the mileage. It has the man hours. How many hours they have, been used. And then if it is new, then you mention it new. And then if it is having a registration number, you mention about registration number. Then it goes to whatever types of mobile crane that we have. This some of the conventions for the plant valuer, for any reports that you have for the micro description, these are some of the way, the convention that you need to incorporate in the reports. So it don't have to be a very lengthy, sort of, wording, flowery and all that. So just enough for you to understand that these are the typical sort of description of that particular machines. And then, of course, you will attach all the photograph in the reports. And then, of course, at the end of the day, you will do the valuations based on the whatever approach that assumption that you have done. And then, of course, the you can summarize depending on the client request. when they need you to summarize according to this section, you summarize it according to this section, and then at the end of the day, you just report the market value. And then we go on to the comparables. How do I value the aero trains in the Terminal 1's airports in Kuala Lumpur? So one of the way that I undertakes the evaluation for the track transit systems or the aero trains is that we have the subject aero trains. So when you know that this aero train is Bombardier with the type CX100, you can immediately contact the supplier in who supply this car. So for instance, this Bombardier is in Germany. So I'll just fly email to the supplier in Germany, asking them to provide me the quotation for this particular aero train. So by describing the descriptions of the train, the car, the numbers of car that we have, the platform, the runway of the track of the train, and then what are the configuration that you have within it, the control systems, of course they have the control room because it's manless, it's automated, and then the driverless. So you have got all those with you, and then they will reply you accordingly. So, and then on the comparables, so since at that point of times when I do the valuation, we have some comparables of the same, more or less a typical project that China at that point of time was about to handle the Olympic Games. So that is one of the information that we able to analyze in the valuation exercise, and then from the analysis we come out with the analysis of what would be the truth, the worth of the train per kilometer and all per length of kilometer that we derive at the end of the day. And then we have other comparables like this. We have comparables in Quebec. It's the same automated people mover, they call it. Over there is the same TTS, what we call it in Kuala Lumpur, and sometimes they call it Aerotrade. So it is worth a contract of 43 million. So we analyze that in terms of the getting the per run meters of the worth of that Aerotrain. Then, of course, we have so many more comparables, just to share a few. And this is the evidence 3 on the what we have in Atlanta. So that is in terms of comparables. And another study that would like to share with everyone is on this ferry. So I've got a request from the Ministry of Transport at that point of time to undertake a valuation for this ferry, because government intended to buy over this factory from the private operator. So okay, the subject ferry is Wawasan Labuan ferry. So this is the subject vessel or ferry which we're going to value. That what the request that we received from the Ministry of Transport. So we have divided the descriptions of this ferry into vessel measurement, the electronic instrument, the basic information, the power source, and the notes or the remarks on the ferry. So that's why when you have any valuation of plant machinery equipment, sometimes there is totally a difference, no description altogether from one case to another case, because we are well in ferry, so you have to divide the description into this class so that it's easier for you to compare with whatever comparables that you have later on. So of course, when you have got the vessel measurements, you have got what are the length, the breadth, the depth, the drop, the speed, the passengers, as well as the capacity of the vehicle that can be loaded into the ferry. And of course, the ferry comes with all these instruments, and they have the basic, informations with the gross tonnage and all that, and then the source of power, the genset, the generator, and the main engine, the fuel consumption, and all that. Okay, so that is the subject, and then the comparables. So how do we get the comparables? So we have to compare apple to apple, like to like, what reducing the differences as minimal as possible. So like here you have the same comparisons of the measurement, the electric instrument, the basic info, the power source, and all that. So once you have done that, then of course you can have maybe this comparable is not that suitable, and then you have comparable 3 and all that. So once you analyze the comparables, then you get the end results. So as I mentioned in the early explanation lectures just now, it's about the report. Since we are valuer, we don't have any expertise on the conditions, on the stage of maintenance of that particular ferry. So we have got and extract a report from the departments that is doing the actual maintenance records for this particular shipping vessel and anything that goes in the ocean. So something related to the business of ferry and vessel. So there is a reports on this ferry. So of course, we base this report to be incorporated in the vessel reports. And then in terms of the conditions of that ferry also, we have got a thick reports from the departments that doing the inspections and certification of this particular ferry. So these are the examples of the report they have. Then with that, we attach this report in the evaluations. And of course, because ferry, aircraft, and all that are something that is controlled and regulate by the governments. So we need to check they are registered. We need to know their identifications. What are the history? What is the name of the ferry before it goes to these operators? So then we go to vessel registered search. So there's a search engine actually. Even perhaps you can install a search engine in this phone to know that all this registered ferry, vessel, and all that, where are they about with your handphone? Have an apps on that. Not only the aircraft, but even for the ships, there's an apps on that. That once you get the coding for that particular ferry, you can know exactly where about the ferry now at this point of time, real time, whether the ferry is docking at the place that it's supposed to dock there or is somewhere else, sailing in the oceans. So that is the beauty and the wonderful of all these tools and the systems of webs, apps nowadays. So all this information is within your knowledge. So they could be a very detailed explanation about that. But like this, we know exactly where the records of our ferry that we value just now. Here, there is the name of ferry for this particular ferry in this register search. So it was from Korea, if I'm not mistaken, this ferry before it comes to Malaysia. So so all this information is important because all this vessel register, the record, and all that is some of the information that we need to incorporate in our okay, on the methods of evaluations I've gone through. So when it comes to technologies that create the obsolescences, of course, how do we keep track of all these things? That when we just obsolescences from the methods of evaluation, remember when we do income capitalization, the reflections of rental loss actually is the potential rental loss is already reflect the obsolescence of that particular machines. When we go by the cost approach, the physical deterioration, the functional, the economic obsolescence has been taken care of. So that is how we see that we can stick with the cost approach. And if we go by the sale comparisons, how the obsolescence is taken care of when similarities are compared. So, if you're compared like to like, apple to apple, that is already been considered. So, of course, the computations, just to summarize, so terima kasih. Thank you very much. Okay, then we go on to the final one. We have another half an hour. I have another 3 hours to explain, but that's why sometimes I jump in here and there. But what is important for me is that to share you all that if you are doing plant machinery evaluation is really something that we look forward that everyone should really eyeing on this profession, because it's not only that we value a expert in doing land and building, but plant and machinery is something extraordinary. So it's something that if you have an idea of how to go about plant and machinery, if you meet all these fellow friends that doing the plant and machinery, you will have a broader knowledge of how we can do plant and machinery evaluations.
Excuse me, Professor. I'm here. Uh, can you share some thoughts regarding the practical experience of calculating remaining effective lifetime? Remaining effective lifetime. How can judge it? And because there are there are so many very old machineries. Sometimes it may be more than 100 years. We have come across with come across with finding remaining economic lifetime for that depreciation and all that. There is one question. And on the other hand, the government policies as a developing country, It is very changing. Actually, these days it is about 57% of the CIF value of the machine is as used as a tax. Then how the valuer should care about that? Can you share thoughts on that?
No, you see, I just take for one example about this effective life of any machine. Say, for instance, you have this milling machine, a very old milling machine, the lathe, for example, which is used in the milling and all that. Because traditionally, all those equipment those days, they were designed to last long. It means to say that you look at the way how it works, you just replace the parts and then it becomes good again. Even like printing machine, I quoted an example on the printing machine that when we value the printing machine for the government of Malaysia, even the economic life has already become we consider it's already almost retired. But then since they can still produce something, that how you equate the output of the production in terms of the worth of that particular machine. Like, the numbers of output they produce, it will translate in terms of the worth of that machine. That is the value. So it's how we come up with that figures. So if the machine cannot produce any more outputs, then it was nothing. But if still they can bring profit to the business, that is still the worth of that particular machine. So how it works, then you have to translate the output of that production that they produce in terms of the dollar itself. Just like you have rental, so that rental, how you reflect that rental into a capital value. So that analogy is something that we can equate with this slide.
In that scenario, that capitalizing scenario, what are the yield you are going to apply for that capitalizing purpose for the machine? On the other hand, is it possible to how can we estimate the production, how long it can use for that? Likewise, we are have a problem on that.
No, that will depend on the circumstances. Because sometimes even you will observe for all these productions of the old machines, they have reduced the capacity of what they normally produce before. So that is something that we consider something deteriorated already. So that could be some of the way that we could adjust and come up with certain rationale if you were to support your report in such a way that even though you look at that particular machine, it is not that it was spread, but it was something. So you could. Can we have the last? You have another thing. You want to end it? No, I will do anything. Okay, okay. Or I just do very quickly on the report and then. Okay. Can we have the final one? I do it very quickly and then we have another. This one. No, that already done. Okay. No. Or does it matter if we can have a Q&A? Oh, it's okay with me, no problem. Which one? This one.
Valuation report.
Yep. Not this one. Okay, I'll do this very quickly. I run through maybe 5 to 10 minutes, sorry, okay? Then we about to close the session. So this is about the preparations of the valuation reports as to what is the report and why we need the valuation reports. Of course, we have explained in detail, and what to consider in any valuation report is, of course, the purpose of valuation, the standards that we have to follow. If we are doing in Malaysia, we have to follow the Malaysia valuation standards, and then the IVS, if you are complying to the international standards. And for whatever report that we prepare, it must be comprehensive and according to the professional standards. And of course, the methodology sometimes is a little bit different from the real properties. So in any valuation reports, there must be legal documents and feature of comparables. Of course, you have the reference sources, and this is very important because that source of data that become the foundations of whatever value you're going to establish. And then, of course, when we talk about the good report, there must be a clear communication, concise writing, and with accessible language, and is readable. And the quality of good reports, they comes with all the appendixes, thorough research. Of course, you need to do a lot of literature review, readings and references. Sometimes you have to discuss with members who are, have done this valuation before, those who are experienced, to provide you some sort of, justification to what you're finding and the accuracy of the reports. So, of course, it has to be organized and standards. So, this is the professional standards that we have, like the MVS, the IVSC. Of course, inside the IVS and the IVSC, there are also standards in the valuation report. There are standards in the inspections and the verification. There are standards in getting all those information. There are standards in the methods and all that. So these are the formats from the instructions right to the appendix. So all this from the purpose, the data evaluation, inspection details, definition, whatever you have, so that must be incorporated in the reports. So as to the instructions of the value, get a very clear identifications, client identification, who instruct you, what is the scope of job that you're required to do, and then the subject matter. And then, of course, for the date of evaluation is very important, because this date of inspections, the date of inspection, the date of evaluation, and all that will count with the later on you allow for depreciation and all that. Even for the insurance, the financial market, all dates are very pertinent and important for you to understand. And of course, for this date is determined by the client requirement. Of course, they want whatever date be requested, and the status of the, sometimes they want the date as according to the status of inspection, or perhaps sometimes there is a legal requirements where the court, asked to undertake valuation for a certain date for maybe sort of illegal, settlement and all that. And then, of course, the inspection details. Whenever you inspect any section and whatever, you have all the section like that, and then you have the date of inspections on that particular area, and then who accompanied by will be the reference in future when your valuation report is being queried and all that. So you know exactly the accompanying personnel who provide you all the information, because when we do valuation, if we are being asked to establish the information, we know where are the reference point. We get all those information, and the definitions of plant machinery equipment, what is included, what is excluded, and the clarification must be there, because sometimes your client might have a special request. So you have to take that into consideration. And of course, just now on the description, the 3 level, we have gone through the descriptions, the micro, the work process and all that. So these are the micro description that appeared on the screen, like details of the company, facilities, and suitability of the PME on site, the maintenance, if you have any information on that. So that is the a sample of micro descriptions. For instance, if you were asked to do the descriptions, and then as to the detail of what is in the 1534, that is the detail of the brand model, the types, the capacity, the serial number, and all that. So the micro descriptions, example here, if you have the air compressor, for instance, what would be the descriptions of this air compressor? And then, of course, you have the work process flow. You have to include in the appendixes on the work process, like the palm oil mill, what are the work process, and then the section overview, and then the supporting sections that you have within the plans. And then the assumptions that you need to have, like tenure location, equipment condition, operational capability, the market condition, and whatnot. So, of course, going back to the report, on the basis of valuation to determine the market value, whether it's insurable or going concern value. And then, of course, we have explained about the reinstatement cost, the methods of valuation. I've elaborated quite lengthy, and the evidence of value. Of course, these are the uh, data information that we can have, whether from manufacturer, vendor, whether from trade show, whether from publisher, price guide, client invoices, computerized database, auctioneer, dealers, and all that. So that will help you. So, and then the opinion of value, and then professional qualification. Of course, there is a standard to have your name, qualification, and all that. And then not to forget all the appendixes like plan, photograph, micro descriptions, other related information. So these are the golden rules before we end. So you have to give the facts that matter no more than less, and you provide your opinion, and never confuse facts with opinion. So be precise, be clear, and this is the takeaway of the day. And terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. And thank you for all the audience. And if any questions available with the online audience, you can raise your hand and we can select few questions for the moment. Any questions from the main audience? Okay, as per the there's no any questions. So with that, we can wind up the session. And the selected notes, we can share it to our audience, no?
Yeah.
So, okay, so this handout of the session will be emailed to your official email address.
Thank you very much, Professor Kaudin, for your sharing your valuable insights on plant and machinery evaluation. So your vast experience and deep knowledge have truly enlightened us on the technical and practical aspects of valuation in this specialized field. So now to formally express our gratitude, I would like to invite Ms. Gidmi Abesoria to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, Gidmi.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the conclusion of this insightful session on the science of plant and machinery valuation, it is my great privilege on behalf of the organizing committee of the ICREMV 2025 to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all who made this session a success. First and foremost, our sincere thanks goes to Professor Khairuddin Halim, Industry Professor, Real Estate Department, Faculty of Built Environment, University Malaya, for his enlightening and thought-provoking session. We also take this opportunity to express our appreciation to all participants who joined us from Sri Lanka and abroad. Our heartfelt thanks are extended to our collaborative partners, RICS Sri Lanka, the Government Valuation Department of Sri Lanka, the Urban Development Authority, the Colombo Municipal Council, the Institute of Valuers of Sri Lanka, the Alumni Association of REMV, REMV Crew, and the DMV RCB Club for their unwavering support and partnership in this endeavor. We are equally grateful to our academic partners, RICS School of Built Environment, Amity University India, and University Malaya, Malaysia, for their continued academic collaboration and contribution to the advancement of real estate education and research. A special note of appreciation goes to our valued sponsors for their generous support. Our platinum sponsor, Access Real Estate Private Limited, gold sponsor, Abe Gunawardhan Associates, silver sponsor, KPMG Property Valuation Services Private Limited, and our bronze sponsors, IJVR Associates Private Limited, Wikifran Chartered Valuer Private Limited, Trutsats Consultants, and Valuer S. Sivaskanta. Finally, our deepest thanks to everyone who contributed directly or indirectly to making this session and the entire conference a success. Thank you.